My name is Sarah McCready, and I am a poet. Our national anthem says that Wales is the old land of the mountains, paradise of the poets. So with that being said, Wales Vlislovakia, October 29th, 2024. She is blushing. First game. She says they have ponytails too. The glitter finish she opted for on her face paint, lit by floodlight. Giddy to see a woman wear red. Hear names like school friends. Kaylee, Hannah, Fionn, sung in folklore hymn. She too sings, Wales, Wales, Wales. Joins the eternal choir. Her voice floats onto the pitch, down the touchline, into the penalty box. Goal. Diolch yn fawr. Cymru yn byth.
Good evening to you all. Noswaith dda iawn a chroeso cynnas yma i Neuadd Ogwen. Dwi jyst eisiau cychwyn drwy diolch i Sarah McCready am rannu y gwaith hyfryd yna hefo ni. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that really beautiful, inspirational piece of work with us to begin this special evening. Croeso cynnas iawn I bawb a chroeso yn arbennig hefyd I ddynas arbennig. So, as well as reaching out and welcoming you all here this evening, there's one very special woman in particular that I'm sure we're all eager to put our hands together for and welcome onto the stage, our manager, ladies and gentlemen, Rhian Wilkinson. Okay. I think you can sit in the far side if you like. Are we good? Are we good? In Daitri? Yeah, there we go. First of all, congratulations on getting up those steps, because after the day that you've had, I am surprised that there's anything left in the tank.
No, this is the best. This is exactly what we want. This is women's football, women's sport, front and center for the full day. And big thank you to everyone. I know the team and I have both felt very special today.
Yeah, and you can just feel it, you can sense it in the room, you can sense it in the area as a whole. There's just a really, really lovely vibe. And on behalf of everyone that's sat here, boy, girl, child, adult, I think that when I was a young girl, something like this was the stuff of dreams. So thank you for making it happen and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So if we can just go back to many hours ago this morning, just tell me how your day began this morning. Was there an alarm that went off? Did you need an alarm to get up this morning? Where were you at?
Yeah, we finished work quite late on Wednesday night, so I was lucky enough to be driven up. Got here just before midnight, and then the alarm was on at 5 to make sure I was getting up there in time for 9. So it was a great morning. I think I was just excited, and I wanted to start it walking on my own. I'm glad I did that.
I heard you say this morning that you did have some nerves for the beginning of the book. What was it that you were holding on to those nerves for? What were the nerves about?
Maybe the unknown more than anything else. I think I'm more excited than nervous, but I think when there's a piece that you're just not as sure about, like how's it going to look? How's it going to go down? Is anyone going to show up? I think you're nervous. So it left pretty quickly. There's so much great work has happened to make today so special.
in terms of how it went down and how it looked, I mean, I think the response has been absolutely phenomenal. And what an amazing idea. I don't think I can think of another country in the world, even another, even in terms of a football club that could put on the spectacle that the FAW have put on today. It's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I thank you for mentioning it. I do think there's a lot of people in this room as well who put in so much effort to make this happen, to get all the media up to the top of Erwithra. And yeah, this is exactly what we wanted. Our mountain, our team, the perfect backdrop, which is this gorgeous country of ours. So I don't think it could have gone any better, and a lot of people worked hard to make it that smooth.
And am I right in saying as well that on a personal level for you, there is a degree of sentiment there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a special mountain for me and my family. I grew up climbing it. My father was at Placid Brennan for big chunks just to further his education in outdoor training. And so we used to climb it as children. My parents had their honeymoon there, and then after he died, we had a little ceremony for him up there. And that was before I got the job. And no one at the FAW knew that.
But wow,
so it was all coincidental.
So you must have had like a couple of special moments walking up there this morning, thinking about that as well, I imagine.
I left early. I was up there for a while on my own, and people think I'm joking, but I actually had a little nap at the top. I found a little outcrop, and it felt like that's where all the nerves left. It felt like it was meant to be, and I was just calm and excited for the day.
And can I ask you as well, is there a degree of relief there now that the announcement's been made? I'm sure you've had weeks and weeks of kind of going to and from, and sleepless nights as well, I imagine. But now your squad has been announced. You've got your 23 players out there. How good does that feel?
It feels amazing to be able to give that to 23 players. But equally, these amazing days come with a lot of heartache, because I think there's a lot of young people in the room today. There are some fabulous people and players who did not make the squad. And I always think of them in moments like this. All of them were so close. All of them played such a big part in our qualification. And equally, I'm one person and I'm one opinion. And it happens to be that means they won't be coming with us. But I very much hope that they use this as the challenge and the motivation to push on in their careers and prove me wrong. But it is always a bittersweet pill on days like this.
And difficult as well, because there is such a family feel to this squad and just to this operation as a whole, isn't there?
There is, and like many of the women in this room, they've had to fight for a lot. They've had to fight for a long time, and in the last few years, the women's game has really grown in popularity. There's still a lot of work to do, but it was this culmination moment, I think, for this group of players to be sort of on top of that mountain, to have their names in the press, to have that feel like a celebrity moment probably for them. It definitely felt like that for me.
And from those names, so I think what's a really lovely thing is that there's that really important mix there of experience and, with all due respect, the lesser experienced players as well. How does that work?
I think that's huge credit to, I love that we're calling more experienced players, our older players. They have changed the landscape of football in Wales. They've had to fight to have their names on the back. They've had to fight to be given their jerseys. Everything has been like this effort forward. And these young players have come through, and then they've just gotten the jersey. They've just gotten their name on the back. But in order to succeed, those new faces, those new names have to feel as connected to the moment as the more experienced players. And that is a really hard thing to do, because it's easy to be a little bit bitter when you're older. Like, they don't even know what we had to fight for. They don't even understand. And so a testament to them and who they are, that they've created an environment where everyone feels like this is their Euros. It's not someone else's more than anyone else. It's theirs. And I think we saw that with our goal scorers to qualify us. Like, they've really stepped up these new faces, and they've been able to do that because they've had the courage to play with a freedom that you can only do when you know that your senior, more experienced players will have your back. And they've done that. it's an amazing thing.
That's just a really special dynamic then, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So I know that you've just had a couple of mini camps going on, and then you've got the Portugal camp coming up now as well. Tell me about, what is that like? If we were a fly on the wall, what would we be seeing in terms of bonds and relationships and how players go about their day, how you go about your day? How does it all work?
The mini camps or Portugal?
Both.
Well, I think the mini camps are, again, a really great testament to this team. They're optional. The players are all on vacation. That's just the middle of the break for them in their season. And we needed them to be getting contact with the ball. Yes, they're going to stay fit. They know that. I'm not worried about that. But we wanted to give them opportunities to play and to be on the ball. And 22 players showed up. Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. They're not getting paid. This is just.
And this is all voluntary as well.
They've traveled in, and they travel in for 3 days. There's no meetings. It's just training. And then Portugal is going to be a really important step for us. We're leaving on Sunday. And I learned this as a player, but that quiet before the storm. So taking them out of Wales, which it's the best to be in Wales, but equally you're around everyone. Everyone's so excited for you, so that energy's just surrounding you. So taking them and putting them, we're going to go to Portugal. We're not in Switzerland. There's no sort of craziness around the Euros yet. So we get a week of just training, of just enjoying being together, of working on some of our off-field things as well as on-field, so that we can arrive in Switzerland connected as a team and in a great place to deliver to the best of our ability.
So we're now 2 short weeks away. Can you actually believe that here we are at this point? It's so close now. We've gone through several periods of it's been a dream. It's been out of reach, it's happening, and now here we are. How do you kind of prepare yourself and your team at this point?
We always talk about the next step. So what is the next thing? So we've had the mini camp, the next thing is Portugal. Once we get to Switzerland, it's about integrating ourselves and figuring out environment. And then it's the first game against Holland. And then it's the next game against France. And then it's the next day game, excuse me, against England, which everyone brings up straight away. So I think when you take something big like that and you break it into smaller bite-sized pieces, thank you, I wasn't very subtle about that.
Just choke.
Yeah. It makes it more manageable. And we practiced that through our last campaign through Nations League A. It's not about looking forward. It's not about being nervous about the what-ifs. It's just about being present and being excited about what the possibilities are.
I think I heard you mention the what-ifs a few times today. And you did allude to the fact there that, of course, people are going to bring up the England game. Do you allow any thought to go to the 3 games yet, or is it just let's concentrate on that first tie on the 5th?
Yeah, I know. I have my game plan made for all 3 games, but I will not be looking at anything other than Holland to begin with. And I think a big message to the team, but also a big message to all of us, I think. We talk about the what-ifs. There's always something that you can be nervous about or that you can sort of get negative about. All these teams are higher ranked than us. All these teams have players that play in the top leagues and have the faces and the names. So do we. But what an opportunity. Such an opportunity for us. No one expects anything of us outside of Wales. Inside Wales and inside our camp, we expect a lot of ourselves. And I think that's the exciting thing. It's more of a why not attitude. Why not give it everything we have? Why not be brave enough to try and challenge ourselves against the best teams in the world? And the worst case scenario is we lose and we'll be okay. And I think as soon as they know that we'll stand together no matter what, it gives you a freedom to just play. And that's what I want for this team, that when we walk away from this tournament, whenever that is, we have no regrets and we played with no fear. That's the only thing I ask of them.
Oh, that's amazing. That's just given me goose pimples on the back of my neck there. As you have mentioned, faces and names, I did do a little fist bump this morning when I saw Sophie Ingall's name up there. I don't expect you to tell me what part exactly you expect her to play, but how important is her presence in terms of, being around the camp, being in the dressing room, her experience? Obviously just goes without saying, doesn't it? how important is it that she was there and part of it?
Yeah, I think you all see the last part, which is her name on the list, but she has unofficially been a part of the last 2 camps we've had. It's been really important for me and my staff to make sure we weren't pushing her. Some of you in the room will have had knee injuries. It's an awful thing. And everyone heals in their own time. And I think we always knew that Sophie was going to have to push that timeline a bit, but I didn't want it to force her to take risks. And so we were always just watching that and working with her, and she had some fantastic support with Chelsea. And so we kind of had to delay a little bit to put her back into the squad just so that she didn't feel that pressure. But she's been tracking well for a long time, and I was thrilled that she was able to recover in time to experience this moment that she's worked so hard to achieve.
And what was her reaction when you spoke to her? Without being intrusive, obviously.
No, I think all the players' reactions were really touching. I mean, they all, even the most given of names, were so grateful for this opportunity, and I think that pretty much summarizes the team. They're very feet on the ground, hardworking, and very grateful for opportunity, and I think I've picked a perfect 23.
Talk to me about your captain, Angharad James. A really, really, obviously her talent on the pitch goes, speaks for itself, but also a really lovely, special human being.
Yeah, she is. And I think your captain has to be a type of leader on the field. There's all different types of leaders, but also should represent who you want to be as a team off the field. She's the face and the name, and she does. She comes across as exactly who we want to be: humble, hardworking, passionate, but equally will do anything for her teammates at any time. I have 2 vice captains in Haley and Carrie, and I asked them if they wanted to take on this role because I was going to push them more than I pushed anyone else. But equally, in the hard moments, they had no excuse to hide. That was my request of them, that when things are going poorly on the field, I want you on the ball. And I said, I will demand it of you, and if that's not something you're willing to take on, that's understandable. So we had a big conversation about it, and they all 3 decided that they were up for the task, and I think you'll have seen that. We were in Swansea not so long ago, and we lost 4-1, and I watched specifically those 3 players not go hiding. And I think that's a true testament of leadership, and a big lesson for us as a team as well, that we've got to rely on not letting our guard down in moments against top teams. So I'm glad we had that lesson before we got to the Euros.
It's so inspirational to hear all this. I'd like to share with you, if that's okay, a reason why I find Angharad just inspirational and a lovely human being. A couple of years ago, my daughter was really ill, and she was undergoing chemotherapy at the time, and Angharad got wind of this, and she would just send me a message every now and again and ask me how we were getting on. One day there was a knock at the door, and it was the postman, and he had a parcel for my daughter, and in it there was just a gorgeous handwritten letter, which is, we don't see handwritten letters very often anymore, that she'd written on behalf of herself and the team, and a signed shirt from all the girls. And I just think that just says so much about her, but also it says so much about this group, and it's so special. So yeah, that's why I'm a big member of the Angharad James fan club.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing, and I hope your daughter's doing well. And that is who we want. That's who we want representing our country. They're good people first. They're fantastic athletes, but they think of others. And I love that. Thank you. Yeah,
No,
I'm not surprised.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you as well about the Red Wall, the fans. I mean, we're going to be one of the best supported teams out there. There's no doubt about that. And, we've all seen the difference that this group of fans can make. It's like we're united from both sides, isn't it? There's no separation there. Tell me your thoughts on how important this group of fans can be.
It's hard to express. I mean, even big thank you to everyone here. I think this kind of support, this commitment to being there for the team, not just showing up, but being a voice, being loud. I'm Canadian, and we are not loud. We are the lamest crowd. We're like politely clap in the corner, and that's sort of what I'm used to. So that my first game, I think there was just this this wall of noise at one point. And I don't hear much when I'm coaching. But this idea of this, well, it's red wall, but it felt like a wall of noise. And, we were in Kosovo, Croatia, all these places that we went to, and the fans showing up, no matter how many they were actually there, consistently and constantly gave everything they had to the team. And that's what we'll need at the Euros. And there's going to be hard moments. Absolutely. There's going to be tough moments. And that's what I love about our fans, is they're with us every step of the way. And I don't think every fan base we can't say that about every fan base.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. The girls that I've singled out, obviously, you've got 23 players there, and we could go through each of them individually. I do have to ask you as well about Jess and her importance.
Who's Jess?
Jess who? Jess who? Yeah, who is Jess? No, how important is her involvement in all this? And can we please see another goal like we did from her a couple of weeks ago?
Well, I've told everyone I taught her that. So that was, I think, Jess is a generational player. The way that she sees the game is probably a step, even 2 steps ahead of most people. And I think when you have players like that, what often happens, they get very frustrated. They get frustrated because their teammates aren't seeing the same things they're seeing, or are taking longer to see it. There's a lot of things that make Jess special, but one of the biggest things is how she coaches on the pitch. She doesn't yell at players for not being in the space. She's annoyed with herself for not helping them get in the space earlier. When they make a mistake or a poor decision, she's the first to encourage them to get back on the ball. It's the reason why our young players are able to play with such freedom, is all the senior players, but equally Jess. She's so encouraging of it, and she expects it. If they miss an opportunity to turn forward or to take a shot, she's the first to tell them, oh, don't pass to me, take the shot. And when you have a senior leader like that, and a name like Jess Fishlock, I assume that's who we're talking about, there's no reason to be fearful. It gives such confidence to the team, and to me as a coach as well. I have another coach on the pitch. She's constantly helping drive our tactics and helping drive her team to new standards. It's a gift to have her.
It's such a busy day that you've had, and obviously thank you for coming and spending this evening here with us as well. We will go to some questions from the floor in a moment, I think. I just want to ask you as well about the afternoon that you've had in Talasadden as well, and how important is it to be getting in and involved with these grassroots clubs as well, because essentially these are the fans that are going to be there cheering and supporting, not just through this campaign, but the next campaign and the campaign after that as well.
It's huge. I love doing things like this. I think we had such a moment on top of the mountain, and we announced the team, and I think I was talking to Oz, or someone at FAW mentioned this, and I think it's really important that we don't just show up for big events like that. We show up for an event, and then we stay in the community, and we make sure that we're being visible, and we're doing the work to make sure that you up here in the north, but equally West Wales, Central Wales, everyone sees themselves in this team. And so I love that. It was a pitch opening. We all know that the women's game still has a lot of growing to do, and a lot of that comes down to facilities. So anytime that I can help support the opening of a facility, making sure that their locker rooms, their toilet facilities are as accessible for our young girls as our young boys, all those pieces are really important as we continue to push the growth of the game and to stand up for our young girls who maybe haven't always had the same access.
It's difficult sometimes not to take that for granted as well, isn't it? As we're seeing things improve by now, is there a danger there that we can forget how far things have had to come?
I don't think from those in the room, the parents, the mothers, maybe the slightly more experienced supporters, will forget. I think this is a moment that we have to use as a catalyst to make sure our young girls get what they deserve, which is equal opportunity. And I don't think it's ever been on purpose that we haven't done that. It's just been the boys' game, and now that's changing. And that field opening I was at today, the young boys were as excited to meet Liv Clark and to show me their trophies as they would have been maybe not quite as excited if I'd been Craig Bellamy. But I mean, they were just loving that the national team had showed up in their village, and that's the next step, that our young boys just see football. And the women's game and the men's game, it's different, but it's football. And there's something to be enjoyed in both those games. And we can't get complacent. We still have so much work to do. And I don't think that we will get complacent, because so many women have maybe not had that access when they were growing up in Wales, and want to make sure their daughters don't have the same troubles.
I was eavesdropping on a conversation between two grandmothers recently, actually, and they were saying that the grandson had been watching the girls play football, but to him, he was just watching football. It wasn't that this is the girls' team or this is the men's team. He was watching and enjoying, supporting his country, and I just think that's amazing. That's where we want to be, isn't it?
It is, and it's an interesting thing. So I'm very lucky to be an aunt to 6 young people, and I have a twin sister, and she has 2 boys, and I spend a lot of time with them. And they've been coming. I was a player before I was a manager, and they've been coming to my games always. And it was an interesting moment when they realized boys could also play.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we had not even considered it, that they just only ever came to women's games, and they only met me and the other, friends of mine who happened to play football. So they were really excited that they could also play.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Do we have any questions from the floor? Di rwan yn amser da ni fynd i'r llawr am gwpl o gwestiynau? Dwi'n meddwl ma' 'na meicroffon yn mynd i ddod i lawr. Yn y cefn yma 'na.
Oh, we get a mic.
What do you have to do to be a good footballer?
Oh, I love that question. I think it's such a... I think to be good at anything, you've got to love it. And the reason is you end up practicing it by accident because you just enjoy it. And so a lot of people say like hard work and extra practice. Those are not wrong, but you don't do that if you don't love what you do. So the most important thing is to find something you really enjoy doing, because then it doesn't feel like hard work. That's the key. You've got to love it. And that's part of my job as a manager, is to make sure that even the senior national team players, they enjoy it. It's got to be fun. Do you agree with me? Do you think that's good advice, or do you think I'm missing something?
Good advice.
Good advice? That's a good answer.
Happy days. Any more?
If you could have any player from history on your team, who would it be, and why?
Well, they'd have to be Welsh. I became the manager right after Helen Ward retired. And she was a fabulous player, and she works in the media now and is a pundit, and I think she would have been someone who really worked so hard as well to get Wales where they are, and she didn't get the chance to be at a major tournament. So I think there's a lot of names that I should be saying right now, but I think she's the first name that comes to mind. So Helen Ward. Deal.
Any more? Just in the camera, Hannah?
What would you like to tell young people, like young girls starting football?
Okay. So when I was 9, I was born in Canada. I'm from Quebec, and my parents were teachers, and my mom is Welsh. My dad is English. And when I was 9, my parents decided to take a sabbatical from work, so they moved from Canada and they moved us back to Wales. And I was playing ice hockey, I played football. My dad made me play rugby, but I was a bit scared. I would swim very, very poorly. But I tried all these sports. And when I came to Wales, I was in South Wales, at school, I wasn't allowed to even do PE because I was a girl. And my brother was allowed. And because I had already played sport in Canada, I couldn't understand why I couldn't. And then I really wanted to play football, and so my mom and dad found a way for me to play with the local boys team, and they wouldn't pass me because I was a girl. So I cut all my own hair off. I cut it all off. I really wanted to be a part of the group. So it was really, really hard for me when we moved to Wales. And we ended up moving back to Canada. And I went on to play for Canada for 16 years. I had a professional career playing soccer, football, and then became a coach in football. And I'm telling you that story because my biggest message to young people here is sometimes you're made to feel a little bit less than because you don't always have the same opportunities as your brothers or the boys, and that's not right. My biggest message is young girls are as deserving as our young boys to play any sport they want, and I hope you all play football forever, but equally it's finding that thing. We talked about loving what you do. It's finding a sport that you guys enjoy doing because it's really important, especially when you become a teenager, to have a group of friends that are in sport. It helps you with staying fit, but equally it helps you with your mental health. So that's it's a big message, and it's really simple. You are as deserving as the boys for anything you want.
I love that. Can we just... Any more from the floor at this point?
What team are you excited to play?
Holland, France, and England.
In that order.
Yeah, I'm so excited to play them. Do you think that those are good teams? Yeah? Do you think they're going to be really, really hard? No?
Maybe.
I hope you're right. No. I think they're going to be really, really hard. And I am really excited about that because when you play the very best, I think that they're really good teams. Then we have to be at our best. And I think, like you guys, when you watch my team on television, it feels so far away. Like, how did that happen? How did that work for them? My team has watched those teams on television. They've watched England win the Euros last time. They've watched Holland win the Euros. They've watched France be really successful. And in their minds, some of them, they think that they're so much better than they are. And that's not true. They're a very good team with very good players, but I think it's this moment where my team is going to step on the field with players they've seen on television and realize that they're just as good as them. As a team, together, if they stick together, they can beat anyone on the day. And that will be our X factor. That's what makes Wales special, is that this team are family. So individually, some countries might have better players than us, but if we stick together as a team, I think we can play any team on the day. So I'm really excited for all three of those challenges, 3 opportunities for my team to show who they really are.
There's one
down here.
What are your goals with the girls' team in the future?
What are my goals for the girls' team in the future? So one of my biggest goals is to get around the country as much as I can and talk about what I just talked about then, is how do I continue to grow the game in Wales, to make sure that the base of players, the participation rate, which there's people with the FAW that work on that all day, but part of my job is to help them and to talk about it and to put a spotlight on it. And so one of my goals as a manager, whenever I get fired or whenever I walk away, whatever happens first, that the participation rate in Wales has just gone up through the roof. That's my goal. And if I've done that, I think I'll always look back on this as being a really, no matter what happens, a really successful time here in Wales. Yeah, there was one down here, but I don't know if she's still... Oh, sorry.
Who inspired you to coach in Wales and become who you are now?
Cool. Thank you very much for that question. So I told you a little bit about when I was a little girl in Wales. My mum grew up on a farm in South Wales, and she didn't have any sport either. And she didn't know what to fight for. But when we came to Wales and the school didn't let me do gym, she fought them. She went at that school conference, and I think there was change made because of it. And if I look back on my life, my mum has fought a lot of fights behind the scenes. I didn't know about a lot of them until later. But my sister and I are definitely the beneficiaries of a mother who never let anyone treat us any differently than our brother, who was a bit older. And my father was a professional athlete. He was a rugby player. he didn't like football very much. But he knew, or he didn't know that women could play sport either. And then he had a son who liked to read and a daughter who wanted to play sports. And fair play to him, without really knowing, he got right behind me and became my biggest supporter. So both my parents, and it's such, a lot of people say they're parents, but I am so lucky with my parents. They both supported me and inspired me in different ways. So that's my goal, is to always make them proud. And I became a manager because my father was a manager. And I thought that seemed like a cool job, and I was right. Yeah. 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 I see you.
What's one of the biggest problems you've faced, and how did you change that?
Biggest problems I've faced. Well, the first problem we've talked about is there's not many players in Wales playing. We've got to grow that base. That is a problem. We've got to get you all playing for Wales one day. That's really important. The biggest problems I've faced as a coach, and I talk about it a lot, is I didn't realize my first camp how important family was to my team. Like, I thought I knew. I love my family. I love my family. I thought I did until I came here. And then I understood that whenever my players come to camp, they have to be able to see their parents. They have to be able to see their siblings. They have to be able to connect with their family, because that's the reason why they play. And I didn't appreciate how important that was. And that was a big mistake by me. And my first camp, it was a tough one. I learned a lot. And my second camp, I apologized to them. And fair play to the team, they accepted my apology. And essentially, that was a big learning for me. It was a big mistake by me to not understand the culture first. I just went football, 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 when actually what I should have done is, who are you? What's important to you? How can I support that while bringing in the football? So that's a big lesson for me.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone answer questions so honestly. It's just so refreshing, amazing. Are there any more from the floor? And a friend, Samantha?
What is your favourite part about being a manager?
My favorite part of being a manager? I have the coolest job. I have such a cool job. I think I get to try my best to teach my players how I think the game should be played and what I think they should try and do, and then the game starts and they do whatever they want. And I stand there and I yell a lot and they do what they want. But this is what it is. Football is such a fun sport, and I get to be around it, and I get to try and help people become the best version of themselves as athletes. I think that, I hope, will be my legacy whenever I leave the game, will be how many players feel like they were really seen and that they were given opportunity. That's what I get to do every day.
Do you have any rituals or superstitions that you like to go through before a game?
I have to go to the gym before a game.
Okay.
There's too much energy. I have to do something. And then I've always said I'm not very superstitious, and then I realized I had about 3 different charms in my pocket. And I think Florence is here, the head of operations. She spends most of her time finding my things. They're everywhere. This water bottle, I've left it in about 8 different places, but it's my lucky water bottle, so it's been shipped to me, FedExed to me twice. So then I've got a robin, like a little red robin that my mom gave me. I don't think she even knows why. She just did one day, and I put it in my pocket, and it's lucky. I've got a lucky rock.
A lucky rock?
I don't know where I found it. It's quite nice. And I always have lip balm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess I am superstitious, because I think I'd be upset if they weren't in my pocket.
I love that. Any more?
Yeah. What do you want to speak up?
Oh, diolch.
Who's the craziest in the changing room?
Craziest? Do you know, I don't go in the locker room very much. Florence, who's the craziest in the locker room? Lily Woodham? That sounds right. I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, that's right. She was on the table. Lily Woodham, turns out. I only go in the locker room right before they go out on the field. They don't listen to me. I say a few things, and then I go in at halftime and I tell them what they should do, and they do whatever they want. And then at the end of the game, that's it. Sometimes I go in just to wish them safe travels home, but that's the only time I'm in there, so they get to hide. Only a few people get to see them in the locker room. Do any of the parents have questions? I think that's maybe something.
Yeah.
That are starting to coach? It's a bit controversial, but it's still very male-dominated, and I think we need to keep encouraging our young players who are becoming coaches to be brave and to get their elbows out. I think sometimes we try and create environments, especially for our young girls who are going into coaching, where we protect them a little bit because we know that there's not many of them and that it's tough. There's so many boys and men. But the reality is you've got to be really tough to be a coach. You've got to make hard decisions, but equally you have to be able to get your elbows out and make sure that no one's in your space. Because I think we all know from our own jobs that if you let your guard down there, they encroach. But also to encourage. I think it is a wonderful job. And for so long, the fact that there's not a female coach in the men's game is a joke to me. I'm on my pro license right now with all these incredible players at Premiership and the German League. And I don't mean to be arrogant, but I know as much as they do. I'll tell you that. And I don't know. I'm not running on the field. I'm a football coach. My eyes work the same way their eyes work. My mind is the same as their mind. And I think this is the next step where we feel like women are secondary. It's frustrating, and especially in the women's game where we see so few female coaches. Even in our top leagues. I think in the US there's 14 teams and 3 women. In the WPS I think it's 2 women or something. In Germany it's 1. In Spain it's 1. And so it's making space for our girls, making sure that they're aware that they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay, and that this is a job that they can do, and just we just have to keep saying it, because it is hard. It's hard to be trailblazers. Did I answer it? Did I? I'm not sure I did. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Are there any?
So many people fought for me to get this job. And so many people believed in me, male and female. I was given opportunity and I was encouraged. And that's give people opportunity, encourage them, and stand with them in the hard times. I should have said that.
That's a nice message for life as well, isn't it? Philosopher now as well. Are there any more questions from parents? Oh, there's one in the front here. Yeah.
What's your most memorable Wales kit and why?
Wales kit? It's a good question, but I haven't been around for very long. So you know what I'm going to say? I was a Wales fan before, as a Canadian, even before I lived here, and I had the old Welsh jersey. It was Kappa, and it was really tight. It was kind of lycra. Yeah.
Can I just say, I gave birth to my daughter wearing that shirt.
Okay, wow.
That came with me to the Labour ward.
Well, I've definitely had a lot of elasticity.
It was stretchy.
Yeah, it was elastic. I was such a weird kit, but I remember it was really different, and I loved the color. Well, obviously the vibrant colors, the bold colors, and then the big badge. Yeah. So yeah, small world.
Yeah, it was.
That was well before your time. You have to look that one up.
Any more? Unrhyw un arall? Neu ydyn ni'n hapus? At this point, I'd just like to ask you whether you have, I think you've blown us out the water with a couple of your answers anyway, but do you have a final message to the fans, to the nation, as we are about to step into this moment of history?
Simply diolch. I think no matter what happens this tournament, these women are history makers, and they're going to give it everything they have. And just a thank you, because I already know. That's why I'm not stressed about this. I'm nervous, but I'm not anxious, because whatever happens, I know that the country will stand with these women. And that's the biggest fear, right? And because I've gotten to know the country and I've gotten to know the support, and I've seen it through some of the challenging moments equally. They've been around for so long supporting these women. I think there's only exciting times ahead. And again, diolch and thank you. And we look forward to putting on a performance for everyone.
Rhian, diolch yn fawr iawn. I think there's so much to look forward to, and it's just been mind-blowing to sit here and to speak to you and to listen to you. It's such a privilege, and you know, you're just carrying us to such a wonderful place. And as someone who has been that little girl that wasn't allowed to play football, football wasn't for me, here we are today, and thank you so much. What an exciting time ahead. Diolch yn fawr iawn.